Welcome to the Cutting Edge Convention, a worldwide movement to revolutionize your life. No more stumbling around in the dark, wasting precious weeks, months, and years trying to figure it out on your own. Get ready for valuable innovations and strategies. And now, here's your host, Marcy Peters, the Age Backward Mentor.
Hello, and welcome to the Cutting Edge Convention. I'm your host, Marcy Peters, the Age Backward Mentor. I help smart, successful men and women just like you step into a life they love and a body they love being in. And to age backward. Why age regularly when you can age backward? Today, we are talking about eating. We're going to talk to Gillian Hood, and she's an expert in this area. And so I want to introduce her, and then we'll jump into the topic. So today we're talking about how to break free from dieting and emotional eating. So intuitive eating coach Gillian Hood guides women to achieve freedom from disordered eating, body hatred, and a life revolving around food. She has an 8-point system of self-acceptance and compassion. Since 2002, hundreds of women have embraced her proven system to reject dieting and deprivation forever. Gillian, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks very much. I'm really happy to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to speak on this topic. This is an important topic because so many people are struggling with it, and not just women, but men too, to some extent. And, you know, this topic of dieting and being on this dieting roller coaster and really wanting to get off and wanting to feel more stable and healthy in our bodies and our choices. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And first, I'm wondering if you could share a little bit of your story and how you came to be here.
Absolutely. I would love to. I'm going to try to give you the short version because it started when I was 8. When I was 8 years old, well, even before then, I was a very picky eater as a child. And it was ridiculous, really, when I look back on it now. I don't know why it was that way, but I was picky. And my parents were divorced when I was probably 6, I think. And my dad remarried when I was 7 or 8, close to 8. And I had this pickiness that my stepmom was not into at all. And I can't say I blame her. And so she instituted a lot of rules. And of course, these were typical rules like eat everything on your plate and make sure that you try something and all of this stuff. But for some reason, because I've gotten away with this pickiness for all my life, I suppose, I really rebelled. And I decided that I was just going to sneak food. I mean, I don't know that I decided, but that's what happened. I became a closet eater. And I would sneak food. I would eat it in the middle of the night. I would eat it while I was in bed. And just this typical rebelling thing. But it was a problem. It became a problem over the years, especially when I turned about 13 and started gaining weight from all of this. And I didn't diet. And that's the great thing about my family. We did not do dieting. And thank goodness, because some of my clients have, and it's even worse for them. It's so hard. So about probably when I was 17 or 18, I discovered dieting through high school and my friends and all of that. And I started dieting, and it made the eating worse. My weight would go up and down. The binging got worse. I really think I had binge eating disorder if it had been a thing back then. And in my 20s, remarkably, I decided to become a personal trainer because I was exercising. I discovered exercise in college, the kind that didn't require being on a team, didn't require being athletic. And I could do aerobics, and, you know, the worst I could do is step on someone's foot. So I really liked that, and I felt good, and I started losing weight because I was starting to pay attention to what I ate and really learning about these things. So a lot of people asked me, can you help me? So I did, and that's what spurred me on to become a personal trainer. And I was very successful. I worked with people in their homes, but the problem was that my weight was going up and down. I continued dieting, and I continued to put the weight back on, and my binging would get worse, and it would just go around in a circle. And my clients, most of them would not lose weight either. They'd get really fit, but they wouldn't lose weight. And I knew I wasn't going to put them on a diet. There was no way I was going to do that because I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know the answer. Fortunately, in 1998, I discovered coaching. I was trained to be a fitness coach and work with people over the phone. And through that organization, I met a dietitian who introduced me to the concept of intuitive eating. And as a personal trainer, I thought, no, I have to be perfect. So I tried it for about 6 weeks. I worked with her. She went on maternity leave, and my mind got the best of me, and I had to be perfect. And I thought, this is great for everyone else, but not for me. So eventually, after a series of going up and down, and I finally had my very last diet, I believe it was in 2003, and overcame, just gave in because there was no other solution. And I gave in and I became an intuitive eater. It wasn't that simple, but I did it. And I realized this was most of my clients' issues. And so when I was able to overcome it and really learn to incorporate that as part of my life, I started learning how to coach it and how to teach it and started helping others. And so in 2005, I believe, I completely switched over my business, and I've been doing this ever since.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your story, Gillian. That's really inspiring for so many people who are here with us today who have had the same type of struggles and gone through a lot of what you talked about. This is pretty common, actually. Mm-hmm. So today's topic is the end of dieting. And so my question for you is this intuitive eating that you mentioned, is this the solution? Is there more to it?
Yeah, I think there's more to it. There is a book called Intuitive Eating, and the women that wrote it, there are a couple of dietitians, and they were way ahead of their time, and they're remarkable. But I like to add, every year, every day, we're learning new things about the connection between mind and body, and food and body, and food and mind, and all of those things. And I do believe that the intuitive eating principles, there are 10 principles, they are absolutely essential. But I also like to add the mindful eating concept and mindfulness in general into intuitive eating. There's some mindfulness in it. But I think for my programs, I combine mindfulness and mindful eating, intuitive eating, and positive psychology, which I just love. And this new research on what makes people happy and what truly makes people happy is so important. And it's done a lot for me to be able to help my clients stop all of the craziness and the meanness and how much they beat themselves up and everything, which is part of the problem. So intuitive eating is part of the solution, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about these principles, but first I'm curious, in your experience, now that you've been doing this for a while, what have you seen, and how do most people end up with these types of eating disorders and overeating and binge eating and so forth?
Well, the number one, so I'm going to be controversial, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I believe that this so-called obesity crisis that everyone's talking about, and an obesity epidemic in this country and in Western culture, it's caused by dieting, period. Mm-hmm. There's no other reason for it that I know of. And unfortunately, research, scientists, doctors, everybody is focusing on the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. They're focusing on how to get the weight off, and they're focusing on the weight, and they're not understanding what's underneath the weight. Because all of my clients have lost weight. They've lost hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So did I over several years, and they can't keep it off. So the problem is not that you have this obesity gene or whatever the case may be. I mean, that probably doesn't help things, but it's the dieting. It's the dieting that's causing the problem. And it's also, I have some clients that have never dieted, but they're part of diet culture. Because our whole world is diet culture. And so they still believe they need to be thin and that they're worth nothing unless they are thin. And that defines their entire morality. It shows the world how good you are and what a wonderful person you are and how much worthy you are of getting great things. And that's just not true. So that's part of the problem.
Right. Okay. So dieting is behind the obesity epidemic. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about what's behind dieting. What's going on behind the scenes? Why are people gravitating towards, trying to get this short-term fix, which is how I view dieting. It's not a lifestyle, It's a short-term fix. What's behind that?
Oh boy. How long do you have? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist because I'm not. But if you go back and look at even really just each decade from there was definitely a lot of body stuff going on in the 1800s and women and the way they dressed. And, basically they couldn't even breathe when they were wearing corsets and all that. But really, if you look at the 20s And then even, I think that it really got crazy in the 50s after men came back from World War II and they wanted women back in the kitchen, back in the home, and give them their jobs back. And I'm not saying that this was at all what was thought up and they got into a room and did that and decided this, but this is what happened. The beauty industry grew. And then the diet industry really came in to be in the 60s. And it was all about getting women to focus on how they looked instead of what they could do with their lives and how they could help people and what their purpose is. And because it's just become almost like, these are things that people just believe. They believe that being thin is healthy, means that you're healthy, and it doesn't. They believe that if you're fat, you're not a good person, or that you just don't have any control over yourself, or those types of things. And unfortunately, this stuff is perpetuated in the media. It's not all the media, but it's a big part of it. And women aren't doing themselves any favors either by continuing to buy into this. And all you have to do is turn on the television and watch the commercials. And what are they saying? You know, if you don't have thick enough lashes, your life is over. You better buy this mascara. It's crazy. It drives me nuts. So that's really what's behind the dieting, and your worth is based on how you look.
Right. So it all comes down to that relationship with yourself, how you're viewing yourself, your beliefs about yourself, and how much you love yourself, irregardless of what your physical body and your appearance looks like. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so many of my clients can't even fathom loving themselves. And I understand that because it's been a real journey for me. But I tell them, you can respect your body. You don't have to love your body. You don't have to love yourself. But if you respect your body and yourself, then there's more of an interest in taking care of yourself and doing the things, having a fun life and interesting life and living out your purpose and those things that are so much more important and bigger than what size you wear or what the scale says, which is the worst.
It's just a number.
It is.
Yeah. So yeah, respecting yourself is a great place to start. And I don't think self-love comes naturally for most of us, where we just adore ourselves, on a deeper level, not just superficially. I don't think that was role modeled for most of us because our moms just simply, our families just simply didn't know how to do that and didn't have that either. And so as adults, we get to do, this journey and do this process of consciously creating respect, love, honoring ourselves, and so forth.
Absolutely. And it's hard for so many people to believe that that's what they should do or can do to make their lives better or even deserve to do. There's these layers of deserving that they don't even deserve to take care of themselves or enjoy their lives or those types of things. Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Gillian. Yes. That worthiness aspect where everyone else deserves to be taken care of and loved and have the unconditional acceptance and not ourselves or our bodies.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Let's all take a nice deep breath. Yeah. You know what? This is a big, important topic for everyone, especially for women. It's something that impacts all of us to some extent, I would say. And, we're not necessarily talking about it with our friends and families, but it is an underlying thing that we're either working through or have, done some work on. We're somewhere along that journey in that process. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about some ideas, some solutions to end dieting, to really get into that healthier place. Where is a good place to start with this?
The best place really, if you are a chronic dieter or an active dieter right now, is to start by making that decision to stop dieting. And it's a scary one for a lot of people. They think that that's the only way they can control their weight, which if you really look at it, it's not true because 97% of all dieters gain the weight back plus more. So it's really not true. It's making that decision to stop dieting and really being honest with yourself. And why am I dieting? What is it really about? Because so often it's a distraction from something else that we can't control and we're not willing to accept, whether that's emotional issues, it's our thoughts, because thoughts are crazy, whether it's something that's going on in your life and you really want to control it, but you can't, so you turn to dieting. There's so much underneath it. And for people who aren't dieting, and even those who are, I would really pay attention to, what are you doing when you're not dieting? Are you either, some people are definitely, they go from one end to the other, very black and white. They're either dieting or they're binging or overeating constantly. But a lot of people, they'll talk about eating healthy. I'm just going to eat healthy, or I'm going to just eat whole foods, or I'm just going to not eat sugar or white flour or whatever. And the problem is that that's still a diet. If you say, I'm not going to eat X foods, whatever it is, and it doesn't matter how healthy or not healthy or whatever it is for you, if you say I'm not going to have it, the brain is going to tell you that's wrong. The brain's going to fight back. The brain's going to say, nah, you just said I can't have it, so it's all I want.
Right.
So often I have clients, and I discovered this too, when the next step after dieting, after stopping dieting, is to give yourself full permission to eat whatever you want, which is really scary too. But I found once I really gave myself permission and I was eating the things that I thought I loved, because I would dream about them when I was dieting and I would think about them constantly, I didn't even like them. So many of the foods I didn't like. I was shoveling them in because I was pretending not to eat them, or trying to play games with myself that I wasn't eating those foods. And I never got to enjoy them. And when you do get to enjoy your food, you have full permission to eat it mindfully. And mindfully doesn't mean being bored. It means enjoying your food. Then you actually can taste it and you can determine whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then by all means, get rid of it. But if you do, then it gets to stay in.
Whether you like it, and also how it makes you feel. How do you feel after you eat certain foods?
Yes.
And then consciously, that awareness will help create that decision of, is it in or out? If you feel really badly afterwards, then perhaps it's out. If that's your choice.
Point. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a great point, because dieting is basically, the motivation comes from the outside. It comes from either you're trying to impress somebody, or you're trying to fit in or be better than other people, or you're trying to fit into a certain size. Whatever the motivation is, it's completely outside of your body and your life. So that's extrinsic motivation. And extrinsic motivation, the research has shown, it doesn't last long. It's, dieting, maybe you can last a good 3 weeks on a diet. I think my last diet, I was 3 weeks in and then it completely failed on me. And I didn't fail it. It failed on me, by the way. I always like to point that out. Diets fail us. So it doesn't last very long. It holds us maybe about 3 weeks at the very most. So with intuitive eating, learning what you really love to eat, learning what feels good to eat in your body, which is so important, it creates internal motivation. So my clients, when they learn what they love to eat, they learn what feels good for them, and they get pleasure from their food, which is so important, because so many people say, oh, I just want food to be food and it just to be fuel. It doesn't work that way. We need pleasure from food.
Yeah.
It's biologically driven. It's inside of us. It's our biology. So once you're able to enjoy your food and feel good when you're done, it creates that internal motivation, that intrinsic motivation to keep doing it. Because once you're done eating, you're not having to take a nap like I used to have to do because I ate so much, or just feeling terrible, or beating yourself up, all the mind stuff that's going on. And it just makes it very easy to continue to eat this way. And the crazy thing is that we all knew how to eat this way when we were born. And I watch my nephew, who's almost 1 year old now, and he's just adorable. But beside that, he is a very intuitive eater. And I've seen this with so many babies. I observed this, and they scream when they're hungry. And when they're done, they're done. It doesn't matter how much you try to play games with them or get them to drink the bottle or eat the food. It's never going to get in their mouth because they're done. And it becomes undone through parenting, through school, through timetables, through so many different influences, but they're all outside. So when you restore the intrinsic motivation and the internal cues that we were all born with, then it's very easy to maintain.
Thank you so much. Yes, this is such a good point. I really appreciate you bringing it up. A couple of things. So extrinsic motivation often has to do with us trying to be good enough and trying to prove something to other people, usually sometimes ourselves, but our families, society, you know, trying to get attention from the opposite sex, those types of things. And you're so right. And extrinsic motivation is short-term, and that's why diets last short-term and aren't sustainable. So finding that internal motivation of, you know, really feeling good and being able to do the things that you want to do and pursue your hobbies and your passions, and, you know, maybe some business stuff, you know, create what you want for your life. And then the other thing you mentioned was, with kids, they know when they're full. My dog is the same way. I don't have kids, but I have a little dog, and he's like, I am done. I will not eat one more bite, and I don't care, you know, what kind of treats you're going to give me.
Right. Some animals are that way. Unfortunately, not all are. But in the wild, I believe they are.
Right. So, so I love this idea of, and I do this with my clients too, of switching gears. So it's not about the weight. Like I always say, you're not the number on the scale. In fact, don't weigh yourself. And let's, you know, switch motivations from I want to lose X amount of pounds to, you know, what do you want to be able to do? I want to go for that hike, you know, that my friends are going on that sounds amazing, and I want to be strong enough to do that, or run the race, or sign up for this thing, or, you know, just like look good in a certain pair of pants or a dress, or, you know, like feel good in my body. Like it's a deeper type of feeling, you know, pursue some things in life. So thank you. Yeah, I love that conversation. So, so that's a great first place to start. And then what comes after that? What's the next step?
Okay, so typically the first step is to get rid of dieting and diet mentality, which that's a process for sure. And the next step is to give yourself full permission to eat. And of course, this is about eating what you really love. And there might be a period where you end up eating everything in sight, and that's normal because you've been depriving yourself for so long that that's just the body's way of reacting, and the mind. It has so much to do with your body and your mind, and it's not a matter of being good or bad, and that you're such a loser because you can't stop eating. It's going to settle down.
Right. It's like a pendulum that's been on this side, and you let it go, and it swings all the way over to this side before then it can start.
Exactly. That's a great analogy or metaphor. I like that. And so the next thing after that really levels out is starting to pay attention to those hunger and fullness signals and reconnecting with your body. And so many people will say, well, I don't feel hungry. Well, that's because you've learned to tune it out. And it wasn't intentional, but what do diets teach us? They teach us that being hungry is scary. You'll never be hungry on this diet. Well, how do I know when to eat? It doesn't make any sense to me. So it's relearning all of our thinking and the diet mentality and just undoing it. But learning what hunger feels like, learning what too hungry feels like, because that doesn't feel good at all. And that causes us to, you know, pull up a chair to the refrigerator and eat everything before we know that we're even close to full. So you have to experiment with, what does hunger feel like? What does being too hungry feel like? Sometimes you need to go there. What does full feel like? What does too full feel like? And so many people will say to me, well, if I go to too full, then I've failed, I've screwed up. And that's not true. That's learning. And there's no failure here. Anytime that you have a setback or you do something that you didn't necessarily want to do, it's just learning. You just learn from it. If you go the other direction and beat yourself up, then you're going to be right back in that vicious cycle that you're never going to get out of unless you go back to trying to be intuitive. The other part of hunger and fullness that I find crucial is the concept of pleasure and satisfaction. You need to learn what satisfied feels like. And for many people, they get full after they get satisfied. There's hormones and chemistry and all kinds of things that happen in the body that so many people say that it takes 20 to 30 minutes for the stomach to tell the brain it's hungry, or it's full, I'm sorry. I don't find that for myself, but I have a lot of clients that do experience that. And maybe I'm just tuned in enough that I know satisfied and full and what's enough. But that's what you need to do. And making that pleasure, that satisfaction, the key element. Because again, so many people will say, and I even said it, I wish I could just eat because my body needed the fuel. And that would be it. If food didn't taste good, I would be just fine. And I actually had an experience that showed me that that wasn't the case when I lost my sense of taste. I was on some medication. I don't even remember what it was. And I know it's one of those kinds that you have to get your liver tested. So it was pretty serious medicine. Mm-hmm. And one day I couldn't taste things, but I could smell. And it was agonizing. I ate so much food in desperation to get that satisfaction. And I didn't get it for 4 or 5 days. Mm-hmm. And all I did was eat and think about food and go to the grocery store and walk up and down the aisles thinking, what can I get that I can really taste? And I couldn't. So that really shows that it's a biological driver. And if we don't allow ourselves to be satisfied, we'll keep eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. I love the concept of pleasure, of taking pleasure in many things in life. And, eating would be one of those, the smell, the taste, the texture, the experience. Also, deep breathing and just, getting those pleasure cues wherever you can in life, because that's what activates the parasympathetic nervous system. The healing response, the opposite of the fight or flight stress response.
Absolutely.
And all healing, therefore all weight loss and all health and regulation and all of these things that our body does to heal and rejuvenate happens in that place. And pleasure shifts us over to that healing response or that relaxation response. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's something that I have come to believe, and I think there's plenty of evidence for this, that dieting puts us in fight or flight.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
It is so stressful. It's stressful to the body. It's stressful to the mind. And we have enough chronic stress in this world that we don't need dieting causing more chronic stress. Yes. And when we're in fight or flight and we're living in the sympathetic nervous system, we don't sleep well. Mm-hmm. Our digestion doesn't work very well. We can't absorb nutrients that we're trying to eat to be healthy. Yeah. We can't, all of those things happen. And of course the body shuts down in terms of metabolism and all of that. It slows down to become more efficient, which isn't a good thing in this case.
And it hangs on to that.
It does. It absolutely does, because it thinks that some kind of awful apocalyptic thing is coming. It doesn't know, because it's not living in our body's genetics, or whatever you want to call it. It's not living in this world. It's living back in hunter-gatherer days.
Yeah.
And when we had to be negative, we had to have that negative mindset to look around, and that negative bias to look around, what's happening next? How do I have to protect myself? And we had to have these things in place that now don't serve us at all. The negative thinking, the running from a negative emotions, all of those things. So yeah, I think that stress is probably the number one culprit when it comes to not being able to lose weight. And so with intuitive eating, with mindful eating, and learning these things and starting to live your life again and not live your life around food and dieting and your body size, it really does help you go back into parasympathetic and have that rest and digest type of thing that is so important. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I've been harping on quite a bit lately.
You're so right about that, Gillian. And I believe that over-exercising, doing, these high-intensity workouts that last a longer period of time, mm-hmm. like if you're on the Stairmaster for 45 minutes or whatever, I believe, that puts us into our stress response, the fight or flight response too. And there are times when you want to do some of that. And if you do too much of it, it's going to keep you in that stress response. And that's why people who are doing these frantic exercise routines every day aren't necessarily losing weight. That's not the path.
That's so true. And a lot of my clients, once they really become, they're eating intuitively and they're enjoying their food and all of that, then they start to look at their relationship with exercise, because it's been nothing but punishment for them. And so I just tell them, don't do it. Please don't do it, because it's causing more stress, and I'd rather you not do it and maybe come back to it later. And so many of my clients have come up with this concept called intuitive exercise.
Yes, I love it.
And it's the same thing. It's, what does my body want to do today? What would feel good? And of course, looking at what did I do this week? And, if you've been working out really hard, then maybe you consciously want to make a decision to slow it down or take those rest days as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love the idea of intuitive exercise, and it works really well.
Yeah, because exercise can be a form of an eating disorder, that type of thing, using it in the same way. And
Yep.
so when you're checking in with your body, I've been doing this for a number of years, and it feels so good to just check in and be like, okay, is it going to be easy yoga? Is it going to be a sweaty spin class? Is it going to be weightlifting? Or, am I just going to have some fun with it today? So yeah, it feels amazing to just be giving your body what it's asking for on that given day, and not be forcing it to do what you want it to do.
That's right. That's right. And when you put these things in place and your body has a chance to heal from all of the dieting and all of the beating up and all of the craziness that's been going on and all this fight or flight stuff, then your body will decide when it's ready to lose the weight. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to focus on it. You don't have to do anything about it. And once you lose it, you don't have to do anything to maintain it. You just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened for me. And it happens for my clients. And unfortunately, I can't tell them when, but it does happen. Yeah. And, if they're not at their natural weight at the moment, but it's so sustainable because you didn't do anything to lose it, and you don't have to do anything to maintain it, except continue to have a happy life. What a concept.
Yeah. It's a win-win because you get to be happy, and, you don't have to micromanage, your weight. You can just accept where you're at and be happy. And it does happen. It does.
And I do have this little addendum to my story, because I did lose the weight, and it happened. I didn't even know it was happening. It was pointed out to me when I was at a clothing store, and that's another long story. But this is 2017, so maybe 3.5 years ago now, I discovered that I found I was gaining weight, and I hadn't gained weight in quite a long time. And I thought, what am I doing wrong? And I had just gone through a divorce, so I'm like, okay, well, am I getting up in the middle of the night and eating or something that I wasn't aware of? And sure enough, it was menopause at 45 years old. And it wasn't on my radar at all. And so I have put on weight, and that was just my body's destiny. It's what it needed to do. And so many people talk about, oh, well, you can lose weight during menopause, and you can do this and you can do that. If you look at dieting and trying to lose weight as something that causes stress and causes fight or flight, why would you mess with those hormones when your other hormones are already screwed up, and trying to figure out what to do in the first place? So I've been really fortunate that I was able to overcome all of my need to be thin and all of the emotional issues before this happened, because now I can live with it and just be okay that whatever happens after the craziness is over is going to happen, and I can live with that too. And it's okay. I can still live my life. I don't have to put it on hold. I don't have to do anything to try to force my body into what I want it to do.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing about that. That's something that will resonate for many people.
I've had a lot of people sharing. It was hard at first, but I thought, well, I put on weight, so what am I supposed to do? But no, it doesn't matter, because the most important thing is that we get to live our lives, and I've continued to do that. It hasn't stopped me, and it never will.
Because it goes back to our message today, which is it's not about the weight. It's not about the number on the scale. It's about living a happy life and enjoying the fact that you have a body, and you can get out and do things and create,
and doing it now, because a lot of people will say, well, I will be happy, or they'll even say, I'll be an intuitive eater after I take off this 10 pounds. No, it doesn't work that way. Yes. Sorry.
Yes, I'll love myself. I'll love my body when I lose the weight. Love yourself now.
The crazy thing is that there's research that shows that acceptance comes before weight loss, just like it comes before any kind of healing. Mm-hmm. Acceptance always comes first. And acceptance doesn't mean that you're going to give up and eat bonbons on the couch watching TV.
Right.
It just means that you're fine where you are, and you'll continue to take care of yourself. And which is exactly what I had to come to, was accepting that this is my weight for now. or this is my body for now. I don't know what my weight is. Don't want to know. Don't need to know. But this is, how I am right now. And I'm going to continue doing everything that I'm doing. I'm not going to stop. And my life is not going to change if I lose the weight. I know that for a fact. Nothing's going to change,
Yeah, and that's a conception that a lot of people have, this idea that my life will change. My life would be different if I was thinner, fitter, whatever. It could be a list of any number of things. My life would be different. And the truth is, it won't necessarily be different. It's how you look at yourself and how you look at the world and how you interact with yourself in the world.
Absolutely. Yep. Couldn't have said it better.
Okay, so let's continue the conversation. We left off at, where did we leave off? Let's go.
Oh, hunger and fullness and satisfaction? Okay. Yes. Yeah. So let's see, the next step. I forgot to put in a step in there that I've rearranged these a little bit. Okay. And it would fit in here too, but it's really important because it comes before even giving up dieting. And that is using the concept of self-compassion, which is a relatively new term for a lot of people. And we've been so focused on self-esteem, but self-esteem often means I'm better than somebody else, or I'm better than all of you, or whatever the case may be. And self-compassion is what I think everybody needs to learn this skill. It's about being kind to yourself, understanding that you're part of the human race and the human race goes through the exact same things you're going through, and being mindful of what you're thinking, how you're feeling, and what you're doing because of that. And those three components, the self-kindness, what do they call it? Common humanity, which means everyone can relate to what I'm going through and I'm not the only one. And then mindfulness, those three components are crucial for learning how to talk to yourself, how to reparent yourself, and to stop the bashing. Because we often feel like if I bash myself, or if I keep talking to myself this way, it's going to motivate me to stop overeating or whatever. I used to think if I wear really tight clothing that doesn't fit, that's, tearing into my stomach, that'll be a reminder all day long that I need to lose weight, and I'm going to be so motivated to do it. But it doesn't, because it's negative, it's stressful, it puts us in fight or flight, all of those things we've already talked about. So self-compassion, learning how to talk to yourself, and talk to yourself as you would a 4-year-old or a small child. And if you wouldn't say it to that small child, then don't say it to yourself, because that's how your subconscious operates anyway. And it believes whatever you tell it. So, and it takes time for those new thoughts to develop, but the more you do it, and what else are you going to do? You can continue bashing yourself or learn to talk nicely. Right. And it makes a huge difference. Right. It lowers stress.
I love this idea of self-compassion and self-kindness. It makes such a difference. And I think part of the equation here in this step is perfection, letting go of perfection, which I think everyone has to some extent, this idea of trying to be perfect, trying to do things right, trying to, get approval. And I think it comes from childhood, oftentimes from our parents. If you do this and act this way, then you'll get the approval. And especially if you do it perfectly, if you're a perfect child. And perfection isn't real. It's just a conceptual idea. It's an intellectual, mental idea. It's not real. What is perfection anyway? That would be different to different people. So so compassion and acceptance is the antidote to perfectionism.
Absolutely. It's a problem that I see so many times, and it's something that has hung on for me. Even though I overcame it with body and food and relationship to food and all of that, it comes out in my work. And, being an entrepreneur, it's like, I'm not going to put out this product until it's perfect. So I put out no products. So it's truly amazing. And there's a saying that how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I see that so many times in the different realms of my clients' lives. And they might be doing something and they stop doing it with food, and then they start doing it with something else. I've had clients that when the food stops working, which is a great thing, but it's also there's a grieving period that has to happen. But when the food stops working, if they don't have other ways of coping or healthy coping in place, which is always my goal with them, then they can sometimes go to things like overspending. Mm-hmm. Or I had one client told me that she was watching QVC all the time, and she hadn't disclosed that to me until 3-4 weeks after it had started. Or drinking. That's another one that comes up. And it's just another coping mechanism. So it's really important. And that's kind of the next step really, is to pay attention to what are my thoughts and what are my feelings. Because dieting is a great escape. Beating up your body is a wonderful way, not a wonderful, but really this is something, it's a go-to way to distract yourself from how you're feeling and what's really going on. So the next step really is to think about what did I just think? What were my thoughts just then? Especially if you're headed towards the refrigerator or you're wanting to eat something. That's a red flag. Doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you can't overcome this. It means something's going on. Pay attention, because in the past you've just automatically gone for food to soothe yourself. And that's okay, because there are a lot of worse things you could have used. However, when you're aware of it, then you can make that change. And so noticing the thoughts, noticing the feelings, and learning how to deal with them, because negative feelings will never kill us, but we feel like they will. Yeah. So sometimes I'll suggest to a client, just feel it for 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. You can do that, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And that makes all the difference in opening the door to being able to feel all your feelings. Mm-hmm. There's a great quote by Brene Brown in one of her TED Talks. Uh-huh. She says that when we're trying to escape the negative feelings, we do it by numbing ourselves, we numb all the feelings. Yeah. So we can't feel the positive ones either, and that's all we're trying to do. So it's ineffective.
Yeah, we get doled out from even the pleasure, because all of it gets doled out. You can't selectively dole out.
Oh, so. Absolutely.
Yeah, feeling the feelings. That's a
Not
whole topic.
Not all the time, but yeah, it's effective.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's really important, and feels really scary for a lot of us, because as children, that's how we coped with these big feelings that we couldn't handle. Is we distracted and pushed it away and tucked it away.
Yeah, and we were also told, many children are told, don't feel that way. Don't be sad. Don't cry. Don't be angry. Be happy. Yeah. and we learn through that information that those feelings aren't allowable. Yeah. And so they're just pushed down. And so many parents are trying to do the right thing, but unfortunately we just do the same thing our parents did. And so it's great that things are really changing. All this information that's out now.
Yeah, they really are. It's amazing. Yeah. Okay, so what's the next step?
Okay, so you're dealing with your thoughts and your feelings. The next step is to determine what your needs are. So often, if we have, let's say you have an urge to eat a candy bar, and it just comes up in your mind. Well, one thing that I teach my clients is, instead of letting that just be something that you do, that is just an automatic thing that the urge comes in and then you reach for the candy bar, put a pause in there. And when you put the pause in there, then you can determine what's going on. And quite often, especially in emotional eating, it has to do with feelings, but it also has to do with needs. So sometimes, especially women, and unfortunately, all the things that women have done all over the years, men are latching onto now. It's getting harder for men too, especially with the diet industry targeting men. But anyway, so what do I need? I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling lonely. What do I need? And then getting that need met. Sometimes it means you have to ask, which again is scary. I don't want to appear vulnerable. I don't want to appear weak. I should be able to meet all my own needs, but it doesn't work that way. And social contact and having a social network is crucial. It actually influences hormones like oxytocin, that are great hormones. We want those ones to be flowing through our body. So being able to ask yourself what you need and then being able to get it is crucial. Sometimes it's just, I need to take a nap. And how many people will not do that? Because they have so many reasons. Sometimes you can't, obviously. And in the chance that you can't get your need met, or you can't feel your feelings in the moment, you can always distract yourself. That's fine. And I always like to mention that food is always an option, because once it's taken off the table, then you're going to be back in that cycle.
Yeah, it's still a choice.
So it is. It's always a choice, but you want to make it a choice. You make the decision to eat it. Yes. So there's that option, and then you can distract yourself, which might mean, for me, it would be going and playing with an animal probably, and, petting my cat or whatever. And for some people, it could be talking to a friend, or it could be putting on music that you really like. Whatever the case is, well, talking to a friend is probably more meeting your needs. But anyway, distraction is very useful, and it's helpful when you can't meet your need in that very moment. But you want to make sure you come back to it and get your needs met. One of the needs that a lot of my clients come across that I think is important to point out is the need for, what is the word? When you receive a compliment, when you get a compliment, when somebody compliments you, we all like that. However, we have learned to say, oh, no, that's not true. That can't be right. Or you're wrong, or you're crazy, or, oh, I like that dress. Oh, this old thing, the typical things that we do. And it's so important to receive those compliments, because number one, you're telling your brain, I deserve it. And number two, you're not insulting the other person. The other person's trying to give you a gift.
Yes, don't return it.
Away. So often I'll give my clients the assignment of accepting 3 compliments during the week. And it's the hardest thing for them to do. But once they do, it opens the door to being able to meet other needs and see how effective it is. Because many of us were raised that we're supposed to put our needs on the back burner before, and then once everyone else's needs are met, which is impossible, then we can meet our needs. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Or fortunately, actually, it doesn't work that way. And we need to meet our needs first, in most cases, to be there for everyone else.
Yeah.
And everyone knows this, but they have a really hard time internalizing it.
Yeah. We're taught to be giving, especially as women, and not to receive, or that receiving is not important, but it is every bit as important. It's the other side of the equation.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
And then what's our next step?
Well, the next step is to really start living your life. This is crucial. So assuming that you've been applying self-compassion throughout the whole process, and you have, once you get to the hunger and fullness stages, and you're really starting to eat that way, then you're going to start making peace with food. And peace with food generally comes before peace with body. So maybe we should talk about that before getting to living your life.
Yeah.
Body image and being able to first respect your body, then maybe like it or love it, is a bigger issue. And I generally will have clients do the make peace with food thing first, because it gets in the way, and it's a lot scarier. And there's just a belief that I'm not supposed to like my body, and why not? I mean, you look on TV again, and it's the biggest joke on sitcoms and any kind of television now. The last great discrimination is being fat, someone who's fat. That jokes are still acceptable on TV, which I don't understand. And the typecasting, and it's changing. It's definitely changing, but it's changing very slowly. So we are taught every single day that our bodies aren't good enough, again, if they're not perfect. So being able to make peace with your body is quite the journey. But the first step in doing that, and one of the most important, is to be in contact with your body every single day, even if that means, again, 30 seconds. So that could be one of the best things. And I've read so much research on this, and I just love it. One of the best ways to do this is yoga.
I love yoga, and I teach it too, and I've been teaching it for 10 years. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, there's research that has shown women making peace with food through yoga, and not even trying to make peace with food. It's just amazing. So it's a great way to be in your body. You have to be present. You have to be in your body. You have to pay attention, be mindful, all of those great things. So that's my very best suggestion for being in connection with your body every day. But there are easier, shorter things to do too, such as just self-compassion. Often you'll be directed to put your hand on your heart or put your hand on your stomach. And that's just making a connection with your body. And If it doesn't feel good, then find another part that you like and put your hand there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But looking in the mirror, and make sure that your mirror is representative of real life, please. I hate these mirrors that you can just bend them one way or another, or just like tilted against the wall, and all of a sudden you look thinner, and then another way you look bigger. And so I like to make sure that there's reality with mirrors. But looking in the mirror and describing your body in neutral terms. So this is my stomach. It's big. That's neutral. It's not a judgment. I have extra fat on my stomach. I don't know. You have to find the right words for yourself and what you're comfortable saying. But I've had a lot of clients start doing this because I think it's really, really important that they get back in connection with their body. And it does make a difference, because once you start using the neutral language instead of the awful language that has been being used, it does start to change. It changes those neural pathways in the brain, and the old thoughts become old thoughts and they go away, thank goodness, and the new ones come in. And it's when you're not thinking the old thoughts, then you're not going to have the stress, and you're not going to have the stress response, and everything's going to be easier.
Yeah. And also looking at what you can appreciate about each body part, because each body part, it does so much for us. You know, without our bellies, we can't digest food, we can't receive nutrients, and without our legs, our thighs, and our butts, we can't walk places, you know. And so they're serving such valuable purposes for us to be able to just live and get from place to place. And so what can you appreciate about that? And then the other thing I wanted to mention was comparison. Comparison is a form of self-hatred, actually. So, you know, starting to just recognize, just again, create that awareness, which is what we're talking about, and recognize without judgment or criticism when you're doing that comparison. And usually we come up short with ourselves. And just noticing that and saying, okay, did that make me feel good? And if not, then, you know, maybe I won't do that, start to shift out of it.
Yeah, the mindfulness is so important, to be able to see how it feels and recognize what's going on in your mind when that comes up. Comparison is toxic. It's terrible. And it's so funny. I'll often tell a client, okay, you're going on vacation, you're worried about being in a bathing suit, and all these other women are going to be there in bathing suits. And what do you think's going through their mind? Do you think they're really looking at you, or they're worrying about what they look like? So if everyone's worried about what they look like, then is it that awful?
We're all in this together.
We are, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's very few people who are like, oh, I just look amazing all over. You know, people that you would look at and, you know, I know people who I look at and I'm like, wow. And they pick on themselves too. And so, yeah, I mean, just getting conscious with that's happening, and, you know, choosing if that's serving you or not serving you. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a good point. Very good point.
Okay. So then it sounds like the last step is lead an awesome life. I'm paraphrasing.
Absolutely. So many years ago, I discovered, I was asking a client what she did for fun in her life, and she couldn't tell me. And I was so shocked by this. And then I thought, well, yeah, I was doing the same thing, and I can get in those ruts myself. And so it was either about the food, or it was about complete denial and not allowing myself to do anything, because I couldn't until I lost weight. So adding fun to your life now is absolutely crucial. And it's something that so many of my clients and so many people I talk to don't even think about, but they don't allow themselves to have fun. Or they believe that food is fun. And I get that. And food can be fun. Food's awesome. I love food.
It's entertaining.
It is. And it can be fun, and it's pleasurable and all those things. But that's not what I'm talking about here. It's food is my friend. Food is my fun. Food is all I have. Food doesn't talk back to me. Those types of things. And so what else can you put in your life that can fulfill that without it being food? Because even though food might be your fun, it's not fun when you're beating yourself up for doing it. And so fun is crucial. Sometimes I'll just suggest that you go back into your childhood and what did you love to do? That's what I had to do because I couldn't think of anything when I was in the middle of this. And I went back to my childhood and I have some strange childhood memories of loving everything ancient Egypt for some reason and loving everything astronomy. And now I'm a complete freak about both of those things again because I got back into them. I was still interested. And we have the internet these days. We've got so many opportunities. There's these online course places that, when they have sales, you can take a class for $10.
Yeah.
You can learn so much. You can do fun things. The internet's amazing. Of course, you want to get out in the three-dimensional world too, which is many of us don't do these days. And really, of course, have that social support, that social network, because one thing, I saw this amazing TED Talk that I think it was Kelly McGonigal, and she talked about how stress can be healthy. And when stress is healthy is when we actually turn to our support network for help, because then it increases oxytocin, it makes us feel better. And of course, talking to people is very helpful when it comes to needing support. So fun and social support are crucial. The other thing that might apply for some people is, what is your purpose? Mm-hmm. And when we're using food and that is our entire life, we don't even think about our purpose. But for some people, it's crucial. They feel like they need that purpose to be able to shape their lives and figure out what they're doing. And I get that because, I think most people who have their own business get that.
Yes.
And so I've helped people find their own purpose, and that takes care of everything. Now that's unusual. Results may not be typical, but I've seen that happen. Mm-hmm. So the biggest things you can put into your life to change it right now are fun, social support, and finding your purpose.
Yeah.
And that gives you the bigger picture. And food is not just food is something that you love, you enjoy, and is a part of your life that's pleasurable, but it's not your entire life. And that's the main point.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Find those ways to weave pleasure, even if it's just a minute here, 5 minutes there, something, fun that makes you light up or brings a smile to your face, or there's a zillion opportunities. And I have been trying to create that for myself as well. It makes a big difference because I'm such a workaholic. So
me too.
Oh, Gillian, this has been such an amazing conversation. Can you do us a favor and run down those steps really briefly right now for us?
Okay, let's see if I can do that. So first and foremost is self-compassion, learning self-compassion, and that should have been number one. Second is give up dieting, reject all forms of dieting, including I'm going to eat healthy or I'm not going to eat sugar. Third is to allow all foods to become part of your life. So eat what you really enjoy. Give yourself full permission, and full permission means full permission. It means if you really want those French fries at the restaurant and you're full, but you want more, you take yourself to the restaurant tomorrow if you still want more. The key is if you still want more, of course. Mm-hmm. But it goes to that extreme because you have to prove it to your brain. Third is determining and learning what hunger and fullness feel like for you, and they are different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And satisfaction, looking for satisfaction, because satisfaction can give you that moment that your brain says, hey, stop. It's enough. Mm-hmm. And the first time I had that happen was crazy. And that's a real turning point for most people. Wow, I can do that. It does happen. Yeah. Next, let's see, then we talked about self-compassion. Okay, so looking at your thoughts and your feelings and making sure that you're being mindful and aware of them, getting your needs met, and of course, dealing with body image. So taking care of your body, being compassionate to your body, looking at like you mentioned, what you really appreciate about your body. That's so important. And being connected to your body every single day, whether that's through yoga or looking in the mirror or even some kind of meditation, like a progressive relaxation meditation or something like that. And then finally, living your life, having fun, having friends and social support, and maybe finding your purpose if that's what you need.
Amazing. I love it. Oh, this is going to be so impactful to so many people.
Awesome.
Thank you, Gillian. Is there anything we haven't covered in this conversation that you want to add in here as we start to wrap up?
I guess the one important point I want to make is it's not about weight, and it never has been, no matter what we think and that we're focused on it. And because it's not about weight, weight is simply a symptom of what's going on, whether it is a physical issue or it's generally, it has to do with thoughts and feelings and distraction and those types of things. But it's just a symptom, and that symptom goes up and down depending on what's going on in your life. So putting it back on the back burner, as the women who wrote Intuitive Eating suggest, not focusing on it, which I know it's still there. It's still right there. I know everyone's thinking about it, but still, every time it comes up, put it aside, because your body's going to take care of itself. I really like to describe this process as developing mutual trust. We're learning to trust our body, and our body's learning to trust us. Yes. So our body learns to trust us by feeding it when it's hungry, stopping when you're full, and really taking care of it. And we learn to trust our bodies when we get those hunger and fullness signals, and we feel really good after eating. So it's just developing mutual trust.
I love that.
Becoming one again.
Yes, and trust is such a huge lesson that all of us as humans get to learn and get to develop. Trust with ourselves especially.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, Gillian, you are such a well of information, so wise. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you for
today.
allowing me to. I love this stuff, and I just want everybody to know.
You're awesome.
It doesn't have to be so difficult.
And you have a free gift for everyone. Super exciting. Can you tell them about it, please?
Yes, I have a gift. It's a report that I wrote called 6 Keys to Make Peace with Food. And it covers a lot of what we talked about today. It also covers a few things that we didn't talk about, such as what you really need to detox in your life. And I'm not talking body at all. You have liver and kidneys to do that for you. Thank you. But there are a lot of other things in there, but it does cover what we talked about and goes into more depth. And that's what I'm giving away for the people who are watching.
Oh, thank you. 6 Keys to Make Peace with Food. I'm going to have a link for everyone, so make sure you go and grab that while it's available. And so you can get the summary and you can get those additional things that we didn't talk about today. Okay, Gillian Hood, thank you so much for being on the Cutting Edge Convention.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And to everyone here who has joined us, thank you for being part of my community. I really honor and respect you showing up. That's a big part in life, the showing up. So thank you for doing that and taking the time. And I'm Marcy Peters, the Age Backward Mentor. I'm going to see you again very soon. Until then, take good care of yourself, and bye for now.
Thank you for being part of the Cutting Edge Convention. We don't want you to miss a single valuable session. To have the entire event available to you at any time, purchase the package now before the event ends. That's when the price goes up. And watch your emails to get your next steps from Marcy.